Hello, Charlie TCG here, and welcome back to my next post-rotation video. Today we're looking at Oinkologne. I believe that's how you say it, the big pig. So why is this deck kind of becoming this meme or this really powerful archetype? Well, it's an alright attack with 10 plus 30 for each of your opponent's bench Pokemon, but it has 260 HP, and you use like V-Guard, Radiant Gardevoir, and also the Full Force Helmet, I believe that's what it's called, to kind of increase its HP as much as possible because one energy attack are really powerful. The idea is you just tank a huge hit, you heal with your Sharon, your Cheryl, and then you just carry on hitting. I would say it can be very controlled about your opponent. Like if they know they don't need to have more than three bench Pokemon, they can really limit down how much damage you're going to do because otherwise you're using your attack for 300 and 210. And if you flip a coin and if you get tails, you can't attack. So it's kind of a bit of a double-edged sword. And having these really weak relying on basics. So let's look at the list and see what it's all about. So we're on a 4-4 line. 4 for the Chonk with 70 HP, but the 60 HP one's fine, but that can rely a lot more on double KOs through Saberlight, which is not what you want to see. We do run the 4 Lechonk. I think, sorry, the 4 Oinkologne, I think it's still really good. The 10 plus 30 can really, really ramp up to be a lot of damage. And you can see with full face guard, Radiant Gardevoir, and V Guard energy, you're trying to like reduce the HP as possible. Like just with V Guard and Radiant Gardevoir alone, you're having 300 HP into V Pokemon, and your full guard, I believe it's 20, so you have 320 HP, which is really, really hard. It definitely is focused more on these because I feel like that's how this deck is really, really powerful against. And that's, yeah. We also have some draw factor with the barrel and Swovet. The barrel is just your drawing to your 5. We do run the bench barrier Bidoof. And the Swovet is a really fun little attacker where you shuffle your hand up at the bottom of your deck and draw 1, pretty much utilizing the most you can with your barrel to draw as much as you can. Manatee as your bench support, kind of like mainly protecting against the Swovets and the Lechonks or Onkidonks on the bench, but purely because it is really helpful because all of these basics have really, really low HP and you really do not want them to get KO'd. Now, the energies we do run 4 double turbos and 4 V Guard. The V Guard I like because you guarantee you can go attachment to your Lechonks, Leon, or your Oinkolonks, depending where it is, and then you can pick them up with your healing for your Sharons, or if you play Cheryl, it's just one energy discard and you can just attach again. So that's the whole idea of this deck is late game, you just want to constantly be healing with your Cheryls and Sharons, using Power Pad to shuffle some of them back in, and just try and get the wall up there by pretty much attacking really hard, trying to hit hard, tanking a huge hit, healing, and carry on attacking. Similar how, if you remember how Togekiss VMAX was back in the day, I love that deck where you would not do a lot of damage, but you had pretty much have like over 300 HP. You could use Jolteon to like stop like Intelligence, but you always have like Cheryl or Sharon's just healing as much damage as possible, which is why I think this deck is really good. And in deal with that, I've got more Destruction route by playing Path of the Peak and Judge. Now, this is when you go, Charlie, why are you running Radiant Gardevoir if you're playing Path? That shuts down your Radiant Gardevoir. The answer is yes, it does shut off, but if your opponent is constantly bouncing their Path to the Peak, the Gardevoir will stick. And Gardevoir can be really situational. If you're against a deck which you'll know you don't need Path, then you don't need to play it, and that's always going to be Ultra Ball Fodder, or Chorus Experiment. But if you do, you do need Path, you're not going to really rely on Gardevoir, because then that immediately becomes a bit of a threat. It becomes a real liability as well. And that's kind of, I can see why people look at it, go, why are you running for Path but running Gardevoir? That shuts it off. Yes, it does shut it off, but I think Gardevoir can be really helpful and really situational in certain matchups. We do run the Chorus for draw. I really like Chorus, especially in these type of decks, because you can get rid of these useless item cards or supporters. The reason why Chorus works really well, because it can help you thin out your deck without like drawing and discarding like your hand of like potentially like 8. Drawing with Chorus makes your opponent you won't be effective against your opponent's Roxanne's or Judge. And that's why I feel like Chorus is just a really good draw support. 2 bosses. Bosses is such a good card. Getting any of your opponent's bench Pokemon, getting an extra KO which you might need, as well as just an all right good gusting effect. That's why this deck is really good. You can gust up something which is really heavy retreat, your opponent can't get it, hit it really, really gently, but you're always going to heal and with a wall. That's why I'm also running Rock Sound's backup, because this is a way for you to reuse your stadiums, reuse your energy cards, and I believe your Pokemon as well, and your tool cards. So it's a really good, like, getting back some of these really important resources. Ball Search, we on 4 Ultra Ball for Nestball. Nestball immediately gets every single one of these Pokemon except for Barrel and Oinkologne. Ultra Ball to get every single one of your Pokemon. Do you run the Echoing Horn? I really like Echoing Horn in this style list. This can go around like some I think Meltang is his V, yeah. Meltang is V, or some like Walling Pokemon, or just in general, it's like, say your opponent's got like you need that one extra prize card, but you have like Escape Rope, your Horn, or the Boss play. It helps with that sort of matchup. Or just like you've got like a Pokemon with really high HP, your Echoing Horn boss that Pokemon back up there and just sit there and just wall your opponent. Especially with the 2 Escape Rope, some of these Pokemon have really high hit retreat costs, and also being a disruptive card is kind of how this deck will work. You want to disrupt your opponent, heal lots of damage, and try and hit hard. The matchups I would say is kind of positive against certain ones. Miraidon and Mew and Lost Box, these are very heavy bench Pokemon, so you can hit quite hard into them. You also now need to always heal, and they can kind of have to sacrifice a lot of things to get the one-hit KO back. The reason I've said this is positive, it's not like you're always going to win a Miraidon, you're always going to win a Mew. Mew, I feel like Mew can just play around you, it can still one-hit KO you, it can still rule around when not putting as much Pokemon down on the bench. You're not going to one-hit KO them, and they can just like wall it back. But if you're constantly bossing out their Genesects and getting KOs that way, you're in a really good situation. And Lost Box, it pretty much can have like an incredibly high HP Pokemon with over 280 damage. It could be a bit of a tricky one. If they're running the Galarian Birds matchup, I would say you're in a really bad situation. But if they're not, and just running like the Sablezard, you could be in a good situation. Palkia, Lugia, Arceus, and Tina, I would say you're in a much worse one. The reason why Tina is in the negative and Lost Box isn't because Tina can get one-hit KOs guaranteed on most things. If the opponent has all of the powerful ones, like your V-Guard, your Gardevoir, and things like that, it can be a bit of a trick. It can be a bit tricky because it can just heal up all the damage, but Giratina has ways around it. Arceus Box, similar to Lugia, they're already running ground, like fighting type coverage. So, and this is, of course, in the Crossfire. Similar to Palkia, Palkia can just hit really hard. They can also heal. They can also be really, really defensive and really disruptive. And that's something which I feel like is this deck just can't cope with. It can't cope with the huge damage ramp, which is what the high, big hitting decks do. But it's a really fun deck you can play to locals. So, do I feel like this deck has any competitive variance? Well, kind of. It did get a top 8 in a tournament this weekend. So it did do all right. But I would say it is definitely more like a meme fun deck to try and play around. Again, it is still early doors. This is my early testing where I'm running Gardevoir and Path to the Peaks. If someone turns on and might go, what the heck is this madness and monstrosity? Then you know why. It's just a fun deck to play with. I always like these hit and tank sort of style decks because they are really good in the end of the day. So this is my Oinkologne deck list with kind of my thoughts and process about why I've chosen certain numbers of cards. If you've liked this video, consider subscribing. It costs nothing and you can always change your mind later down the line. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in a few days for a new video. See you around.